listen, I am me and I am you and you are me, right? Like we are one. So people like to run around and say, I would never do that. And I always say, like, let's look at where you might have done that in a different form. Where were you hateful? Where were you? Maybe you didn't, kill someone or whatever, but where did you try and kill somebody's spirit? Where are you trying to kill your own? You know, like it's so much bigger than that, And so to your point, yeah, like we have to get to a place where we are enough no matter what. Because when we can get there with ourselves, doesn't mean we're going to do nothing. It doesn't mean you're just committing to like, okay, well, now I'm just going to sit in my filth all day because I'm great. It just means that your worth is not dependent on what you're doing in the world or who likes you or who doesn't. And it's not until we get there that we're going to stop judging everybody else.
Yes, because when we tend to judge people, we judge people through our own perspective. We're saying that, well, if I was in that situation, I would not have done this. But the question is, okay, you wouldn't have damaged someone in that way, but have you damaged someone in other ways? Right?
Yeah.
So, for example, someone can say that, well, I was in a relationship and I treat everyone well and I don't mistreat them. Okay, fine. Let's run with that. You know what? For some reason, you're the ideal candidate. You can't make relationships work for some reason, but you're the ideal candidate. Okay. So, where have you damaged people in other ways? Because if you're as great and if you're more than enough as you claim, then how come, for whatever reason, you're not enough for someone else? Or you're not able to get enough for you? Or what is it that you're lacking that maybe is masking or maybe has you thinking that you're enough? Where's the inner work? And you're absolutely right. Like someone could cause harm in so many different ways. Like physical is just one way. What about verbal? What about spiritual? What about emotional? Right? What
Yeah.
about psychological? There's all these different ways to damage someone else. And then in return, there's so many different ways to damage yourself.
Yes. And the root of damaging other people is not being able to empathize with yourself. When you are judging someone else harshly, you are judging yourself. Period. End of story. And it's very hard to know yourself. It's impossible really because we are such unconscious beings. 95% of who we are is an unconscious set of emotions and habits and behaviors and reactions. And it's very difficult to stay on top of that. So when we start talking in superlatives, I'm the kind of person who, or identifying with our personality. You are not your personality. Your personality is just a collection of defense mechanisms, basically, that you've grown up with, that you put into place. You're not your personality. You're so much more than that.
Yes, you can have two people and put them in an equal household, and because of their life experiences, their personality develops to be two different things, right? They're piecing it together as they go along. Can your personality change? Yes, if you wanted to. Like, and I think that is something that I would argue is probably widely misunderstood is that people think that, well, I've been this way for so long, I can't change.
Yeah.
Well, you were something before you were that person. Trent, what do you mean? I was like, well, you didn't come out angry. You didn't come out upset. You didn't come out disgruntled. You didn't come out all these different things, right? Like there's something that caused you to be the way you are. You're molded or conditioned to a degree that way. And a lot of it, ladies and gentlemen, to be very honest with you, is because of you. It's your own fault, right? It's either you haven't taken responsibility for it or you haven't figured out what needs to be done. Because to Abby's point, like Abby, you're saying, it could be unconscious. It's like, oh my, I didn't realize that that triggers me. Oh my, I didn't realize that I don't like that. What's the source of that? What's the genesis? Are these some of the conversations that you're having with the people that you work with to understand why they're maybe behaving or doing some of the things that they're doing?
Well, interestingly, one of the reasons that I love the coaching model so much more than the psychotherapy model is that we can know why we're doing what we're doing and never change, or we can never know why we know what we're doing and we can change. Because what neuroscience really brings to the table is this idea of neuroplasticity and changing, right? And so I don't necessarily always go to the why. Sometimes we never really get there. It's really about So what now? What? Like, who are you being today? Where do you want to go? You know, where are you heading? And who's the person you need to be to get there? And so it's becoming conscious of what's happening in your inner world, not necessarily the whys, other than to say that you've got some self-sabotaging going on, like, oh, there's that voice. Like when I'm going a million miles an hour, or to your point, you said you're really busy and everything. I totally relate to that, right? Like I will catch myself like, oh, aren't I important? Because I've got all of these appointments and I've got all these things. And, you know, and this is our saboteur, the thinking, our high achiever saboteur, thinking that that makes us great somehow, right? And as a nation, we really do, we foster that idea. Get the A, get the this is what success looks like. And so we tie our values to those things. And I think men tie their values to one thing and women tie their values to different things to some extent. But the thing is the same. We're all tying our value to something that is outside of us rather than something that is inside of us. So the uncovering that I work on with people has to do with a pattern interrupt, you know, of where they are sabotaging, not necessarily why, like, oh, when I was 6, this happened or blah, blah, blah. But, you know, look, it's not about the narcissist. Why are you attracted to a narcissist? And by the way, a narcissist isn't a narcissist. He's a spirit. He's a person. He's a real, you know, he's a spirit, right? Damaged, maybe. Yeah. You know, he's got a collection of personality parts that are not showing up in a great way. But you are the one that was attracted to that. And let me tell you, we are only attracted to people who can tolerate the same level of closeness that we can. So that means that at that point in time, this is the level of intimacy that you could handle. Someone that was not able to give it to you, meaning you couldn't handle it yourself.